Hey, Catholic Divas, welcome to the podcast. We are speaking about working in harmony with breastfeeding. And before we begin, we want to introduce you to our patron saint of this episode. It's Saint Giles. He is a 7th century monk and a hermit known for his holiness and miraculous life. He lived in solitude and prayer in France, relying on God's providence. And this is the reason why he is actually the patron saint of breastfeeding and nursing mothers, is because, according to legend, he was sustained in the wilderness by the milk of a doe, symbolizing God's provision and nourishment. Isn't that pretty cool? His story reminds mothers that God provides for their needs, just as he designed their bodies to provide for their babies. He represents protection, divine sustenance, and trust in God's design, all of which are essential for breastfeeding mothers. So come on into the podcast and we'll get started. Hey, this is Mama Jane.
And this is Mama Vicky. Welcome to the Cycles and Sanctity podcast.
I'm a Billings ovulation method instructor and a certified Catholic mindset coach.
And I'm a labor and delivery nurse, an IBCLC, and a La Leche League leader.
We're here to share with you the beauty and the pain of your cycles.
Have you considered honoring your cycle throughout the journey of your womanhood?
Have you ever considered your cycle as a tool towards your holiness?
Well, sisters, it is. We're excited to walk this journey with you.
So go grab your favorite journal and pen and your hot beverage, and let's do this. Well, welcome back, Catholic Divas. We are ending our series of Working in Harmony today with working in harmony with breastfeeding. And we have had a couple of episodes on breastfeeding because it's really important to Mama Vicky and I. And we will put those other episodes in the show notes so you can listen to those as well. But Mama Vicky, this is your total reign. While we both breastfed and I was a La Leche League leader, you are the IBCLC, which is the lactation consultant, and you've been helping many more women than I have. So I'm going to just let you take it away. Share with us your wisdom on how do we work in harmony with our breastfeeding.
Hey, Mama Jane. Glad to be here today. Hello, Divas. Thanks for tuning in. I got to say off the bat is, La Leche League invented the lactation consultant. And so don't get me wrong, I'm proud of being a lactation consultant, but I'm really proud that I've been a La Leche League leader since 1997 because La Leche League gets to see the entire game. We usually, as a La Leche League leader, you usually don't see the brand new babies like I see in the hospital, but you get to see the whole spectrum of breastfeeding. Like you help moms with newborns and you also help moms with toddlers and preschoolers and everything in between. So I think that allows me to be more well-rounded and speak to moms like when I encounter them at the hospital of like the hope down the road. Because when you first breastfeed, it is overwhelming. Even the mamas that have the quote perfect equipment, the baby with the perfect wide open mouth, and it all just clicks. It's still a lot because honestly, you haven't had a person nourishing themselves off of your body 24/7. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's very normal. I really coached my moms a lot on that first day they go home. Like, don't be alarmed. This will be a hard day. Today and tomorrow will be very hard. And you'll look at your husband and be like, why did we do this?
Yeah.
And so if you get these feelings of overwhelmedness, anxiety, worry, those are normal. That's normal. It's part of it. You're going into an unknown territory. And hey, I always say, I know I've said it on other podcasts, because breastfeeding hours are like dog years. I mean, 2 a.m. breastfeeding your baby could feel like an unsurmountable journey that you're like, oh gosh, is this ever going to end?
Yeah. Mama Vicky, you said something really profound that as a Catholic mindset coach, I really want to lean in on, in the fact that this is normal. Many times when we just acknowledge the fact that, yes, this is normal to feel overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And this makes sense. That's another sentence that I love to say to my brain, because then it just takes the drama out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it also just reminds me that I am exactly in the right place at the right time. I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing. And yeah, I want to acknowledge the fact that that first week your body is just in this massive transition, because you've been pregnant, you've been carrying that baby inside of your own body for 9 months. And now all of a sudden, after X amount of hours or days that you've labored, that child is now outside of your body and your body is shifting and transitioning and it's making the milk and it's doing all these things. And especially with your first one, you have no idea what this feels like. We can explain, just like you mentioned last week on the pregnancy about labor and delivery, like you can kind of express the language of what contractions feel like, but until you actually experience it for yourself, you really don't know what a laboring contraction feels like. And that is part of it, is like the fact that we are called to work in harmony with our body, with all of this, that our bodies, I think I said this on the other podcast, that the best thing that my pediatrician could have given me when I was pregnant with my third one was, you have two breasts so that you can breastfeed two babies. Like, unfortunately, part of the problem is our society has made breasts into a sexual thing, and we have excluded breastfeeding women into a corner. So it's not a normal, many women have never seen a breastfeeding woman before. Like, I don't even know what it looks like to breastfeed. And that's what I love about La Leche League, and that's what I love about you, is that you have had a lot of that experience, so you can impart that wisdom into that new mother that just had the baby, or when a new mom comes to a La Leche League meeting and like, "I don't know what I'm doing, I'm blah, 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 da, da, da." So I
Well, two things. At the hospital, I hear all the time, I'm trying, you're doing. When you're saying over and over again, I'm trying, that is the doing. And mamas, I cannot express enough how important it is to educate yourself before breastfeeding. And it's overwhelming with your first kiddo because honestly, most of us with our first baby are focused on the growing of the baby and the birth process. Where are you going to do it? Who's going to be there? Are you going to have the whole dang fam, or are you going to have just you and your husband, or what's all that look like? So it really is hard to focus. Plus, you've never done the breastfeeding. So it's kind of like, you don't worry about that when it comes.
right.
And unfortunately, in the hospital, we throw in a lot of interventions that make this breastfeeding journey a little harder of a walk. And so I highly recommend, like, Dr. Sears has some great books, the birth book and
Breastfeeding book.
the breastfeeding book, the baby book, and then of course the art of breastfeeding, La Leche League's book. And both those series, I recommend them all the time because they are written in a mother-friendly language.
Mm,
Pregnant moms, postpartum moms, we are not meant to sit down and read quote educational, like textbook style stuff.
yes.
We can just we're just over here trying to keep everybody alive, and we don't have time to delve into abstracts, just straight up. And so many things, skin to skin is so incredibly important. Now, if you have your baby and for whatever reason in the beginning you don't get that immediate skin to skin, it's not over. I guess that's the other thing. In the hospital, a lot of times you get that feel, if you didn't do this, now you can't. But
Right.
breastfeeding is very forgiving, although it is always a little bit of work
Yeah.
because
Will
you
you
you have to do it. And you have to, even if breastfeeding is going well, you have to make sure you're well hydrated, you have to make sure you have enough food, you have to make sure you're positioning yourself correctly so you're not in pain. So there's always a bit of labor in breastfeeding.
Yeah, real quickly, let's stop for a moment and explain exactly, if, you and I have been around this whole mothering for a long time, so we have these verbiage. Will you explain to our audience exactly what skin to skin means?
Sure, that's getting baby down to a diaper and getting on your bare chest. If you're uncomfortable with being like, I'm not saying you have to be topless, but definitely get that, what's this called? There's a word for this part of your body besides chest, between your neck and the top of your breasts.
Yeah,
I wanna say it's like the décolletage or something like this, but
yeah,
like a reset position for baby when the head is below where you can bend your head down and kiss the top of their head,
mhm,
and one hand's on their back and the other hand's on their little bum, and you just kinda keep them there, and that's the reset position, and normally with any newborn, if you get them there and that's gonna calm everybody back down.
Mhm.
Because babies will get on the breast, you'll go to put them on the breast, and they want to put everything but your breast in their mouth. They're
Yeah.
clomping on their hands, they're looking for your nightgown, they're looking at their blanket, they're just looking for anything, and you're like, "Ma'am or
Right.
sir, my breast is right here, please take this," and they're like, "Absolutely not, I'm gonna get frantic," or they'll even go so far as to open their mouth, put it on the nipple, and then, like, look around like crazy, and those things are normal, they're learning. Mama Jane and I have used the bicycle in many descriptions of life because I do tell my patients breastfeeding is a lot like riding a bicycle, except as the mother, you've seen a bicycle being ridden. You read about how to do it, but pretend you've never done it. Now your
Yeah.
baby doesn't know what a bicycle is. They
Yeah.
don't know what it is. And now you guys both have to get on there and pedal
Mhm.
and steer and not fall off. And that's the thing. When you ride a bike, you do fall. It's rare the
Yeah.
person that doesn't jump on. And I used this example one time with a patient and looked at me and she said, I've only ever ridden horses. Touche. Okay, but the same concept. You know, I use a bicycle because that's familiar to me, but the same concept. I'm
Yeah.
sure first
Well,
time you take off on a horse, you need a little practice.
or even driving a car, right? Like,
Yeah.
we've all well, my husband always teaches my kids, and then once they get their driver's permit, then I'm allowed to drive with them. But that's one of the notices that I've been in the car most of my life, and now all of a sudden it's completely different because
Yes.
I'm in the driver's seat and I have to pay attention to all these things.
Yes.
So while coming to a La Leche League meeting and meeting women face to face and watching them literally, how do I feed my baby? And I remember that with Johnny, I was in a homeschool group. They were all having babies. And one of my concerns was the fact that nobody had taught me how to nurse, quote unquote, modestly in public. Nowadays, they have the big blankets and the things, but at
I have
that
thoughts on
time,
that.
I know. And my friend literally came over to my house and she showed me, like, this is how you lift up your shirt. This is how you lean over so that your other shoulder is facing whoever you're you're nursing in front of. And here's how you unclick your bra and then you put your baby. And I sat with the mirror and I did it because, again, nursing in church or nursing in well, with what happened was my husband, we went to a restaurant, and this is right when smoking and non-smoking sections were still a thing, and he's like, "Non-smoking section's in a corner because my wife is nursing." And I was like, "Oh, I get shunned? I get shunned in the corner because I'm breastfeeding." But unfortunately, that is part of the struggle for a breastfeeding mom in the society, is the fact that we don't support, we're shocked when a woman is breastfeeding in public because maybe she's exposing herself a little bit or whatever. But the thing is that when we work with our bodies in harmony and trust that we're doing the right thing for us and our baby, becomes a little bit easier to be the witness and
Well, number
let
one, I
those
have
thoughts roll off their back.
a couple things. Number one, breastfeeding. I have a trusted pediatrician that served the community for a long time. Said breastfeeding is harder than bottle feeding in the first month. And then after that, breastfeeding is easier. Just takes a month to get, but like as mentioned, breastfeeding minutes can seem like hours. And so you just knowing that the first month's supposed to be hard. Kind of like when you get pregnant and you feel that morning sickness, the part of the knowing that the morning sickness is part of it makes it a little more tolerable. Like you're not as
Yeah.
anxious, like, okay, I'm supposed to feel this. And as far as breastfeeding in public, I think we've come a long way. I mean, people can wear anything, anything goes. And often, mamas, what is exposed when you're getting your breast out? And I do not care what size your breasts are, is your postpartum tummy. That's more what people see if they're gonna see something.
Yeah.
So, you gotta be discreet. I mean, you don't have to be discreet, but many of us feel more confident if we feel discreet. Like, whatever
Yeah.
it takes for you to be comfortable. I personally had a whole bunch of summer babies, and they were absolutely not having it with any kind of blanket over their head,
Right.
and I just that is something you figure out as you go.
Yes, but you're right. Again, I wanna reiterate, like, that first month, every day, every hour, every feeding is unique and unrepeatable, and like you said, sometimes a few seconds or a few minutes of breastfeeding can feel like it's hours and that's all you're doing, and that is normal. Like, that's
It is.
probably the best message if we could to work in harmony with our breastfeeding is acknowledging, like, oh, this is normal. And
Mm.
especially with our beloveds, because our men are equipped to fix things. And I can't tell you how many times my husband wanted to go out and get some formula because I was struggling and he didn't like to see me in pain. He didn't like to see me struggling. He didn't like to see me overwhelmed. And so he wanted to fix it. And I just kept having to say, no, 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 this is the right thing to do. And then by the fifth
Again, that's
baby,
why I highly recommend if there is a Lily Chili group in your area, even if you have to drive an hour, if you can get to one with your partner prenatally, that's golden because again, you have a face with the names. So if you do have questions down the road and you're like, wow, we went to that one meeting and Vicky said we could text her, then you feel a little more confident rather than, I mean, I know I told a story in my August podcasting, but it used to be in the olden days, you just had to call a number and anyone could answer the household phone. And you're a young mom and you're like, hi, is Terry there? And you're just nervous, like, so my baby and my nipple. And it just feels, it was a hard call to make, but make the call because La Leche League is an entirely volunteer organization. And I promise you, ladies, the benefits La Leche League leaders get is the joy of passing the skill on. It's again, red tent, wisdom, wellness. We're here to pass it on and just know that it's going to be some days are better than others. And hey, this is where we like to laugh a lot. You got to laugh. I mean, sometimes breastfeeding is comical. I did not tandem nurse with my first, but well, obviously not with my first because he was my first, but this memory I have, it ended up that my 3-year-old had come in the room and the 18-month-old was in the bed and the baby was in the bassinet at the end of the bed. And I'm so tired. I'm half asleep and I'm just keep trying to nurse this baby and it won't latch. And I'm like, oh, what's wrong with this baby? My eyes were closed. I was like, this baby won't latch. And my husband looked up and he goes, you have the wrong baby. And so I was trying to nurse the 18-month-old and the newborn was still crying in the bassinet. I mean, it's just so silly. And then I was like, oh, okay, let the 18-month-old go back to sleep and grabbed up the new baby. And it just that's silly. That's just silly. Things happen like that.
yeah,
And I love to tell the story of Mama Jane when we had gone on this, I don't know, this trek to a shrine and it was just it briefed well, but we pushed the limits and everyone was tired and hungry. And we both sat down on a bench and like right on the path. And to protect us, her husband was like, just did a big spread eagle like a star, like nothing's going on over here, people, nothing to see. And I was just giggling so much. And I was like, I don't think anybody was even looking at us, but now they really want to know.
yeah, yeah. Because we have two babies that are 2 months
2 months
apart,
apart.
2 months
Yeah.
apart, 3 months apart. And that's also the benefit of La Leche League or having a
Any
breastfeeding
support
group.
group, like,
Yeah, the Catholic breastfeeding groups,
yes.
just finding another breastfeeding mama and nursing with her together. And that is really what that red tent is all about. And that's, I mean, yeah, we're on virtual, we're in a podcast, we're online, but really there's a benefit of just sitting down and just being in that sacred space. I remember as a La Leche League leader, there was one particular woman, she just would come. We only met once a month and she would just sit there, just like,
Mhm.
now I can be who I am. I'm in the right place. Like she didn't have to fight. She didn't have to justify. She didn't have to, she could just be the breastfeeding mom. And that's one of those things that you and I've talked a lot about as well, is like part of that harmony of understanding working in harmony with breastfeeding is the fact that that's who you're being, you're doing. I mean, breastfeeding doesn't sound like a great wondrous thing. I'm not getting a Nobel Prize or something, but in reality, you are growing the next generation.
Yes. Something we had talked about before we got on the podcast. Struggling is part of it. Struggling is
Yes.
part of the journey. We're all gonna worry, do I have enough milk? And mamas, please reach out to me. If you are being told you don't have enough milk or you need a supplement, many times that may not be the case. Or you can pump and supplement with your own milk. I mean, there's lots of different, but I see it. I see the different information that new moms get from every direction. Every nurse has a little bit of a different spiel. Every lactation consultant has a little bit different spiel, depending on who your pediatrician is. On that note, y'all find a pediatrician that is going to support breastfeeding. I was young when I had kids and I didn't even know you could quote interview a doctor or call it, be like, let me see if this is a good fit. I was raised in the military and just whoever said they were doctor, that's who you went to and
Yeah.
drove on. But these days women have a choice and the health departments. Health departments are very pro breastfeeding. They want to help you. Many of the WIC programs have pump programs. They've got a breastfeeding peer counselor, parents as teachers. They're trained a little bit that you're going to go into these mamas' homes because they 0 to 5 years old and see breastfeeding situations and just that's all support. And at La Leche League, as we say, and this is even in the hospital, if your day nurse is like, oh, I did this hold and it was perfect and this is what you need to do. And the next nurse says, you know what, really, this is the way to go. Let me show you. Take the one that works for you. Everybody, every boob, every baby is shaped different.
Yeah.
And throughout the journey of breastfeeding, one hold might work in the very beginning, and then even by week 1, you're like, "Oh, I like this way better." And you have to figure out your pillows, not pillows, where's your favorite spot to nurse, and you get like that. Every mama makes a little nest, usually one in the bathroom and one in whatever main room you sit in. I mean, whether it's your other kid's playroom or if it's your living room or with the daytime room, whatever
Yeah.
that happens to be for you. And
Yeah.
I can't reiterate enough, have your bottles of water there. I mean, this is not the time to focus on the immaculate home.
Right.
It's okay if you have 4 bottles of water half drunk at your little nest because you need water there because breastfeeding makes you very thirsty. I've said this before, little snacks, handheld snacks that are easy to do and things like that. You can like keep your snacks at a toddler level so they can run and get you one. You know, toddlers like little help and dads like to help. And
Yes.
a big concern with many moms is, "Oh, well, I wanna do a bottle so my husband can help." There are 92,000 other things he could do. He can help by
Change the
changing the
diaper.
baby diaper, yeah, change the baby, make sure the baby's clean and ready to nurse, bring you water, bring you snacks. Hey, put on a playlist, guys. Put on a calming playlist. Even back in the day when Mama Jane and I were doing it, I mean, with the radio, or if you had a record player or tape
Yep.
player, really
Yeah.
dating yourselves. But I didn't really have that info. And now I get to watch my mom's. Y'all, if you have a diffuser with some good essential oils, have that going because that whole thing just brings you a pace of peace. Try to set yourself
Yes.
up for a
Success.
happy, successful,
Yes.
and, like, a peaceful moment. I mean, some days
Mhm.
breastfeeding is gonna be hectic because 'cause you'll inevitably you could feed your baby up to the last 10 seconds that you get in the car, and you get in that car seat, and they think they've never eaten before.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
levels are gonna be high, but that's why you wanna set yourself up in as best you can in your space.
Yeah.
Just
You
whatever
know,
music calms you, whatever oils calm you, I 10 out of 10 recommend.
yeah, I wanna go back to taking what works for you. You
Mhm.
said a day nurse may say this hold, a night nurse say this hold. I remember particularly with Johnny, with my second born, I wanted to do it right, right? And I read all the things and I went to La Leche League, and one of the ideas was whichever breast that you nursed the last time, you should start on that one. And he ended up, and I don't even remember how old he was, but I just kinda noticed that he just kinda nursed on one side, and then he was done, and then the next one, he just worked on the next side, and I had mind drama about that because I wanted to, quote, unquote, "do it right," and, thanks be to God, I had all these breastfeeding moms around me who acknowledged, like, "If this is working for you, then let it work for you." And it was just kind of interesting aspect of the fact of I get to choose. Like, I get to choose what works for me and this child, and
Mhm.
the next child, something else may work differently.
Mhm.
And that is the beauty of motherhood. That is the beauty of our bodies, is that we're intuitive, and if we kind of, again, working back in harmony with our breasts, like, we can
Mhm.
kinda you'll start to feel which side is full, you'll start to feel you'll get to know if you are prone to breast infections, that was always me, right? Because
Same, yeah.
I had to
I
think
think
that I
it's
did.
kind of hereditary. Yeah, like a lot of moms, like genetically, will get some mamas get plug ducts worse than others. Look, I can still feel in my, in my body all these last kid that breastfed is 15. And I mean, just you won't forget it. You won't forget the feelings
Yes.
of breastfeeding. And this also, another reason I'm just so passionate about it. This starts your parenting journey.
Yeah. That's
Parenting, it will always has a set of challenges, and Mama Jane and I have grown children, and we still have challenges. I was speaking with another one of my friends at work that we're the same age, and now we have grandbabies, and we're both like, "Oh my gosh, your grandbaby's this old already?" And we are just kind of giggling. Like I said, I somehow I had 8 kids in the house, and I was super busy, and I'm still super busy. It's just a different busy,
yeah.
and that I'm grateful for.
Mhm.
Your life ebbs
Mhm.
and flows and changes.
Mhm.
And, God made this all for the good. He made our bodies to work in harmony with our babies' bodies. He made
Yes.
perfect sight. The baby's sight is from the hold of feeding to your eyes. That's where they can see. They can see their mama or whoever's holding them. And I know I've touched on this before, but literally skin to skin.
Yeah.
And breastfeeding your baby rewires your brain and your baby's brain. So many of us have the fight or flight cortisol response,
Yes.
and breastfeeding brings out oxytocin. There's the
Oxytocin.
love hormone, or that's the first hormone, and it's the love hormone. It
Mhm.
is oxytocin is what gets your baby here through contractions, but it also is what lets your milk down. And the feeling of oxytocin when you sit down and you breastfeed, lay down and you breastfeed, like as soon the baby gets latched and you're kind of in a comfy place, usually
Yeah.
mom gets kind of sleepy.
Yes.
But just your
Yes.
bodies were made to do this. I mean, I can't say this enough. Even small breasts, inverted nipples, flat nipples, large breasts, long nipples, short nipples, y'all have seen it all. And they
Large babies, right?
large babies, small
Large
babies.
babies, small
Yes. What
babies. I
yes,
mean,
all of it.
that's the cool thing about breast milk. I love the fact that scientifically now they have actually proven that the fact that like it is a living cells and therefore when the baby comes and latches on your breast, the saliva from the baby kind of like tells your body what that baby needs at that moment, which I just think is just so God is so awesome. Like he
Yeah.
has a perfect plan. He is an orderly God and this
It
is the way he wants us to raise our children to create new life, you know? We are the life bearers, but we're also given that gift of forming that life, and breastfeeding helps form that life. And like you've said before, the other beautiful thing about breastfeeding, working in harmony with the breastfeeding, is not just nutritional, but like you said, emotional, regulating our nervous system. That's what the emotion, like calming that baby down with skin to skin, calming yourself down
yes.
to skin, learning
Also,
to,
when you respond to your baby, the baby cries, the baby's fussy, and your response and they are comforted, that builds trust.
yes,
Guys, that's a whole other podcast, possibly there what do like a thesis on
yes,
a lot of our generation didn't get that. Don't spoil the baby, don't hold the baby, like let the baby soothe itself. They're not meant to do that. Humans were not meant to their babies were not meant to be raised alone. Their babies were meant to be to this day tribes that baby wear all day
yeah,
and night. They're skin to skin
mhm,
with their babies. And that's what helps babies, especially in third world countries. I mean, that's what helps them survive.
mm,
They're still one with their mother.
yeah,
What
that's
your baby's born, you're no longer in the belly, you're the sole life support. But also outside the body, you're the sole life support. And sometimes
mhm.
that can be overwhelming.
Because we're in such a modern society where self-reliance and individualism is really propagated. And again, that harmony means that in communion, and that's really what you're doing is creating this community with your bonding with your baby, you're bonding. And if the husband is involved and he starts to learn to parent in a new way, in a different way, and protecting you, becoming the husband that he's called to be. That was that
And
classic example of my husband, like, spreading all eagle.
well, you
That
know
was
what?
his desire to protect us and to serve
You see a
us.
different light in him. Like
Yes.
when you guys become parents and all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, don't come knock on this door. I'm the protector of this house." And you get
Mhm.
more endeared to him and you work as a team.
Yes, I see that with my daughter, Trisha and Chris, like, since they shared with us that they're pregnant, just their relationship has shifted so much, and it's just so fun to watch of like, "Huh, they're gonna be," you know? It's just again, it's just this beauty. It's like St. John Paul II used to say, well, one of the reasons why he became a priest is he fell in love with human love, and that's really what a baby is. As Kimberly Hahn says, we call it making love because 9 months later, we get to name that love, and that is what we get to care for is this child that however it was conceived, however the free will, that child, that sperm and that egg came together by God's holy will, and that baby is growing inside you 9 months, and now it's out in the world, and you have this opportunity to continue to form it through breastfeeding, and what a gift It really is a gift, mamas. It's God's design for your body. It's a natural process. Even if you need support, we all need support, right? And so I
Yes,
want
we all need
to
support, and, the benefits of breastfeeding go way beyond the immediate feeding your
food.
baby.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Yeah. And
they're huge.
we're
That's a
gonna
whole other episode. That's an August
yeah.
episode.
Yes, August is Natural International Breastfeeding Support Month, and so we love to talk about that in August.
Ladies,
But
we also have had a lot of struggles, and here's look how excited Mama Jane and I are both. We're, like, tripping over our words because there were lots of blood, sweat, and tears, honestly, involved with breastfeeding, and it's still so worth it. And remember, that is how our Lord was fed. Mary breastfed Jesus. I mean, God would only give his son the best,
yeah,
and then he gave us the opportunity to give our babies on earth the best. So,
yeah,
and there's a lot of emotions that go into it, and please, mamas, if you've had trouble breastfeeding or you could only breastfeed for a certain amount of time and bottles got involved, formula got involved, that is not the enemy. We're just talking about breastfeeding however you feed your baby, and if you need help, if you went home from the hospital on bottles and you wanna get back into breastfeeding, that can be done. So
yeah,
please reach out to me.
yeah,
I work at nights, guys. You can message me 24/7. I will get back to you, but don't again, a lot of moms are afraid to make that call, that connection. Well, I
yeah.
don't wanna bother them. I don't wanna and I've been that mom before. Like, well, what if they're eating dinner? Like, they'll all out the window. If we're eating dinner, we'll wait to get back to
Yeah.
you. If I'm sleeping, I'll wait and get back to you. But please, please, please reach out to us and
She's
build your red tent.
Yeah, again, I just can't speak more highly for Mama Vicky. It's one of the reasons why I really wanted you to be on the team in this Cycles and Sanctity podcast, because I just saw the attribute, the value you bring to this and to this podcast and just serving women. You've served so many women for so many years and you continually have this gift. So again, if you are an older woman in your perimenopausal and maybe you have daughters that are thinking about getting pregnant or they are pregnant or they are breastfeeding, please, we want to exhort you to share this episode or reach out to Mama Vicky. If you have thoughts about breastfeeding, just come and talk to Mama Vicky. She's a beautiful coach. She's a beautiful lactation consultant. She's a beautiful mother, grandmother, sister. She wants to walk with you. And I'm privileged to have walked the journey with her as well. It's a real blessing.
It
It's
is.
truly a blessing. So,
Mhm.
all right, mamas, we are going to start a new series in April, and we hope your Lent is going well. And we'll talk to you soon. God bless you.
God bless.
Well, Divas, we really hope that you enjoyed this episode. We want to invite you to go ahead and look down in the show notes and click that write a review. Writing a review really helps us so people can know about it and find it. We'd love to hear from you as well, which is why we love to hear the reviews. As we close, I'm going to be praying the prayer to St. Giles for breastfeeding moms. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. St. Giles, patron of breastfeeding mothers, you trusted in God's provision and found nourishment through his miraculous care. We ask you for your intercession for all mothers who seek to nourish their little ones. Pray for those who struggle with breastfeeding, those who doubt their ability, and those who feel weary. May they find strength, patience, and confidence in the gift God has given their bodies. Through your prayers, may mothers embrace this sacred calling with joy and trust in the Lord's provision. Through Christ our Lord, amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Till next week, Divas, we love you. God bless you. If you haven't liked the podcast, go ahead and like, subscribe, and click that little bell so that you can get every single update on all of the episodes. Go ahead and share it to your best friends.
And come on over to our Facebook page at Cycles and Sanctity and join our conversation. That's where we can talk every day and make this podcast into what you want to hear.
See you next week, Divas.